Hello and welcome to What Moves Us, the podcast where we ask what moves us, or more accurately, what's going to move us in future.
With the Rail Innovation Group's Johanna Randall and Liam Henderson, we look at debates, themes and decisions of the minute that will impact on the way we get about in the future.
Hello and welcome to What Moves Us. Normally there'd be other people in the room with me, Deb or Johanna, but unfortunately not today. It's just me and a rather loud, noisy office development next door. But we have a special episode today, which is an interview with Haydon Bartlett-Tasker of CrossTech. And I began by asking Haydon to tell us about the company.
So what does CrossTech do? So CrossTech, we build automated infrastructure inspection systems. Some of them will be train-borne, some of them will be trackside, wayside. So that basically, what does that mean? We specialise in taking video data from some source, whether that's the front of trains or some sort of camera, and applying data science, AI techniques to that, so that video data, those images, and then we use that to inspect to certain standards associated with the railway. And we present that information to frontline teams. So we do a lot of work for Network Rail in that space with our system called Hubble, which is quite well known, which started in 2018, but I'm sure we can get onto that later. But that's really our modus operandi. Really, really strong in that space, a lot of capability, and that's really where we're focused.
Right. So Hubble, is that your sort of core product that then you build from, or do you have lots of products of which Hubble is one?
No, Hubble is our main product. We spent a lot of time, been working on that since receiving first of the kind funding from the DFT in 2018. So that's obviously topical because the 2023 one out, going to apply. We wouldn't be here without that. And some support from Network Rail as well. And we slowly built the capability out in that place to be a leading product. Now, it's not the best marketed solution because I'm a terrible marketeer. But in terms of its actual capability, it's very, very strong. And if we were sort of had the American angle, technically we'd be a deep tech SME. But obviously we're not in America, so we're just video analytics.
You say you should get on that then if you're marketing.
I know, but I'm terrible at that, so you just have to forgive me, everyone.
There are lots of buzzwords you can use at the moment.
There are.
Just telling
ChatGPT,
me you've been using AI for a long time, so.
Yeah, and so have a lot of people. I think what's changed is,
people have heard of it.
Well, people have heard of it. People are not so worried about it, and also you've got the IT infrastructure to make it possible and scalable, whereas before it was quite hard to manage because you just didn't have those IT cloud institutions, which are quite well known, able to support some of the sort of operational side of developing those systems.
Oh, okay.
Buzzword DevOps. That was there before. Some of the algorithms used in sort of data science and machine learning have been there for a long time and they're very well known.
So have any of the systems limited your product development or your company development?
So no, because we're what do you mean, the past systems?
No, the fact that you said that now it's only now that general infrastructure can cope with it. So has that been a limitation on what you can offer?
No, not now, but in the past.
Yeah.
That's what would have blocked a lot of this capability coming into market, because you just didn't have an easy way to be able to develop those enterprise grade systems that people like Network Rail or other train operators need, and it just becomes too expensive to sort of deliver that. And that's you obviously in a lot of the cloud business has really supported that. You can spin up a virtual machine here, you can manage it all from a dashboard. Doing that all on-prem and having to go and request for someone to give you access to some sort of server somewhere. You can imagine how drawn out that process becomes and why people sort of step away from that side. But that's changed, and that's why it's becoming more popular. It's a growth market. Everyone wants to come into it. And AI is getting splashed everywhere. And it will only be a good thing. I don't see AI as a threat like a lot of people do, and that's and that's not because we do AI.
Because you're a deep tech company.
yeah, of course. It's not because of that. So yeah.
Okay. So follow-up question is, what's unique about your products, and following on from that is, how have you developed them to respond to a industry need?
So there's two questions on that.
Yeah.
Uniqueness, right? I'll start with the uniqueness one.
Unique.
I think, as I said, this place has sort of been automated inspection, visual inspection, video analytics, computer vision. Let's capture all those buzzwords into one, just to make it easier. I think that market has become very, very attractive. It's a real growth market, and I think what makes us different from people is that we've been working on it a long time. So we actually have a lot of what I would call like a fully featured product set. It has more inspection types that are further automated, and ultimately you're therefore competing on, we've got better models and algorithms in comparison to, say, new entrants which have to develop all of that and things like that. And that is ultimately, how you're, one area how we're different. I think but every competitor in the space is going to say they're the best, of course. But I think the second one, which I think is unique as well, is so we don't vertically integrate, which I think is slightly weird for rail. Rail loves vertical integration, or walled gardens. It loves them. And that's what's plagued, I think, the digital side of the industry for a long time. And there's a big push towards collaboration. And I think where we're a little bit different is that we're just really good at the analytics part. That's our specialism, because that's where ultimately the value is in AI, is those algorithms and analytics. And we partner. So with Hubble, we partner with over 13 organisations, and we partner with we're really good at this part. The people who are really good at hardware, because they're actually very, very different business models, different expertise. Unless you're a very, very big organisation, it's very hard to vertically integrate that. And then also, I think that's not where society is going. Society is going to much more collaborative business relationships, and that's really where we're different. We've built the Hubble system interacts with a lot of different data, with a lot of different data formats and standards, and still gets that to work for an enterprise customer like Network Rail. And then I think the last one of those sort of three would be around just the enterprise grade. We've been running, an enterprise grade service month in, month out for a long time for Network Rail. And I think it's those sort of three things, the actual AI capability underneath Hubble, our collaborative nature, and then just the fact that we've been doing this a long time for Network Rail and have got really good track record for many years in this space, I think is what really makes us a little bit different to, say, others, more generic AI software development house, for example, who's just moving into the sort of computer vision space. And I think it's worth also distinguishing, there's a big difference between machine learning and computer vision, with images and videos, versus machine learning over sensor-based data. They are two different things.
Right. So, given what you said, do you see the future being different types of customers, or expanding your product range within the current environment that you work?
I mean, I would love, let's face it, it's really hard. I know one of your members is a really good exporter, actually. I'd love to do some export work, but it's really hard to export digital technologies. But that is ultimately something that I'd like to do, is see some of our Hubble capability, which is not. I don't want to come across arrogant, because I'm not like that, but it will be world leading, and in rail and even in other vision spaces. There's lots of vision stuff going off in construction and stuff, and so I'd love to sort of take some of that capability into other rail infrastructure markets and export that. And obviously, but the focus should be at home first. I think we're still, quite early on the infrastructure monitoring and automated inspection journey in the UK market. And I've been in there for a long time, since 2018, and I would like to continue with that and keep trying to sort of make it better for the frontline teams. In terms of getting them freed up from the more mundane stuff, so they can do the more sort of strategic work that is required to keep the railway going, by giving them better information and insights, and not just like have them sitting there reviewing loads of video data and things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So going on then, you mentioned one of the export is difficult. So, I had a question which is, what is difficult as an SME in rail? But you've answered one question.
Definitely exporting yeah.
Is that your only challenge?
There's... What? So what's difficult in rail?
As an SME or a small company?
So I think I'm trying to remember the journey a bit. I think you get different challenges like any business in their life cycle and where they are. There are different challenges in different stages. I think one of the things that we have to improve is speed to market. And that inherently becomes because software is based on speed of iteration.
Yeah.
Because that's how you get feedback, that's how you learn your product. If your speed to market is slow, your iteration cycles are slow, your product development therefore is slow, the benefit of the products you develop is therefore slow, the return to your end users is therefore slow. You can see how it all starts. So I think we need to change the culture where, speed is actually what we want, speed of iteration. So I don't mean like unsafe speed where it's just like uncontrolled, but like controlled iteration is really, really important. And I think that is still something that we need to unlock in the UK rail industry. But to say that has got better. So I don't want to say, I don't want to poo-poo it all. It has got a lot better from when I started, this journey, which is nearly it's over 5 years now. The second piece, being uncomfortable with failure, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Software isn't developed, you don't arrive at the iPhone 14.
Yes.
The iPhone started and it was really bad. So and I think this is the best way to explain. When Steve Jobs announced the first iPhone, and it was like music, text, call all in one place, right? Loads of users had already, or like customers and people in Apple had already ideated about, other things like the App Store. That was all there. But what they didn't do was stop the first iPhone because that technology wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And I think the industry sometimes has to accept that, software is an incremental thing. It's developed incrementally and iteratively, and getting that model for software right in rail is critical. And also, I think the last point is, which has been a challenge, and I feel sorry for people having to solve it because it's a bloody hard one, is just breaking down those wall gardens which have prevented innovation for a long time. And if people don't know what walled gardens are, they're basically vertically integrated solutions which have no way to penetrate and therefore disrupt, and therefore there's no incentive to improve for the incumbent. In simple terms, I think it's those three things that make it hard for an SME. Because you're going with that mindset, right, I need speed. I might be on a burning platform. I've just had my seed funding. I might have just had my first funding round. I need speed to get to my next round or until my cash runs out. And I need to do that, I need to iterate quickly. Yeah. All of those things, whilst they've got better, still need to continue to get better.
Yes. And I think that the challenge, certainly from a mindset point of view that I observe, is that when you're buying an asset like a train that has a 40-year lifespan, you're assuming that everything else that goes with it would also last that long, whereas the software particularly might be redundant within 3 years.
which is really, really difficult to write in documents that have to go into a big procurement exercise.
Yeah, I'll give you some examples, right? There's some hardware on some trains out there. You know, it's impossible to do computer vision analysis of, because that hardware isn't even compatible with some of the dependencies that are required in some of the CV applications, because they weren't even invented.
Yeah.
And they're not even that old. Let's say those onboard computers, they're not even that old. It's just the change in software.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was that famous VC person, Horowitz, I think. I might have got it wrong, so apologies. You can correct me in the comment section if there is comment section. but you know, software is going to eat the world. You know, it is. You know, it's got amazing benefit. I'm not saying some software are really bad. I'm not. I don't really like social media that much, as people know, and that media stuff. But software is very important, and I think that's just an interesting one because people have all the ambition in the world, but if there's some legacy bit of hardware that you can't update, that's always going to be a bit of a barrier, right?
Yes.
Just your rolling stock point.
Yes, and then you write in the next. When you're writing procurement for those things 5 years before you're going to get them.
Yeah.
And everything's been specified with a USB hole charging, but now everyone uses a different USB-C, which isn't in any of the trains.
Yeah, and look, people are aware of this. Like, this stuff isn't new, and it's always like what you do about it. And I know there's a lot of activity in the industry, and R in particular are looking at, as this is the infrastructure monitoring program and how you sort of create more future-proof sort of digital solutions and things like that, and they're difficult challenges.
Yeah.
But there are solutions out there. You can use cards and things like that. They've gone to take some of the processing units now are cards, so you can rip and replace them as they upgrade, and all on standardized platforms and stuff like that.
Right.
So the actual supply chain into that is coming along to help with it as well.
Right. Okay. Cool. And then, so probably a next one then leads on to what would you ask of industry to make things better?
When we mean industry, you don't mean supply chain, or do you mean like our actual customers? Like, what do you mean by the
It's an open question.
Oh, okay. I think
It'll give you time to think about your fact.
I'm not doing the fact thing. I'm terrible at that. You just put me on the spot, and I just be like, okay. So what could industry do to help us along?
Yes.
It's not like. I think one of the big things is being comfortable with things not working. And I know this is all like cliche stuff. You've heard it all before: move fast, break things, fail fast, all that stuff. But that is really, and I can only speak, by the way, from a software perspective. I know nothing about building a train. I know nothing about signalling in the sense, so I can only speak from that perspective. And I think that's important for this whole conversation to remember that I have that lens and filter on everything. And yeah, I think I've thought about this a long time. It is the speed of iteration. It's being okay that things don't work, and it's also accepting that something that is 80% good, and there might be 20% of these weird edge cases, is still better than what we've got today. And sometimes like the industry can get focused on what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And we accidentally forget, that didn't work, but we've actually gone this far, and we've got 80% of somewhere that we weren't before. And that's
to bank that benefit.
Bank that benefit, and then work out, right, what do we want to do about the next 20%? Because it's diminishing returns. Some solutions they get you so far, and then if you're starting to invest more and more and more, and it's very much in the case of AI. You get into certain performance metrics, and what I mean by performance metrics, you get an algorithm working, to very high precision and recall. So it's detecting what it's meant to detect consistently, and not detecting what it's not meant to detect consistently. For simple terms, you get that very high. Once you start getting trying to refine it further and further, it becomes diminishing returns, where the cost of it it outweighs sort of the benefit of trying to solve it.
Well, and also you're delaying the
benefit.
Yeah.
And then you lose, then there's the sort of technical side and the finance side, but then there's the passion side. You lose the momentum of the culture of people because it all becomes a bit slow, because you're still trying to work out the edge case, and etc., etc., etc. And, let's be honest, let's look at road. I think road is always interesting because AI, you've got loads of LiDAR, you've got loads of vision stuff, going out into, autonomous vehicles and all that good stuff. They've got cars driving autonomously in America, and it's terrible, but having accidents. That's their mindset. And it's a terrible mindset. It's awful, but they are having accidents.
Yeah.
And we're not saying that can happen in the railway because that can't. We're far more, far more safety conscious and guard safety more, but. That is what they are doing, just to hold up an extreme to give some contrast. You've got vehicles going out there driving at emergency responders because they think it's some sort of traffic signal and the car drives into them, which is absolutely tragic. But I think we've got to find a way to create that environment, and the reason I make that point, but doing it in a safe way. We don't want to be probably going out to that extreme, and that's why I held that extreme up in a weird contrast thing. Not sure that worked. It's sort of
No, I understand it. But then, yes, I guess you could have this conversation with someone else and they'd just bring all the small p political reasons why you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So all this stuff involves public money and people don't want to be seen to waste public money.
Yeah, but then, no, absolutely, and that that comes core of it. But then it's I think there's that bit around: if you're moving quicker, you will find out if something works much quicker. I did a talk about quite a long time ago, and basically I called software development down to the free frogs. It's and just so people could remember it. And one of the things was swallow the frog, do the hardest thing first and validate your idea on the hardest thing, because at least that will give you the best information about how much of the problem you're going to solve, and it will give you that information very quickly.
Okay.
Because if you start doing the easy, low-hanging fruit, which is what people naturally go to, it kind of gives you early success, but it's not going to validate if actually your end goal and your end solution can be successful. But if you try and do the hardest thing first, you will and you get to some progress there. The rest of the stuff you've almost pre-validated by focusing there. Yeah. And that's why I say you should try and swallow the frog first. And then make sure you test the frog with customers. I think is the key one. Right. So make sure you then test it with the actual users, because we can get focus on ourselves, and then do that as cheaply as possible. Which is that sort of startup iterative mindset. But I'll sort of still.
What's the third frog?
Test it as cheaply as possible. So test your frog as cheaply as possible.
Right.
So you've got 3 frogs. Swallow the frog.
Yeah.
Test the frog with customers.
Yeah.
And do the testing and build it as cheap as possible.
Right. Okay. Frogs. Lovely.
I kind of like frogs. They're cool.
Okay. Good chat. That expires our questions. Do you have anything else you'd like to say to our lovely audience members?
No.
Apart from a fact of rail.
No, but thank you for listening. I hope that wasn't too boring.
No, it wasn't. It was very interesting, actually. So thank you very much for your time. Cheers, Haydon.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks
for
listening.
Have a good day, everyone. Cheers.
You thought that was it, but it's not. We actually have a follow-up that we just thought of. So, shoot, Haydon.
So, one of the questions that we have on the cheat sheet in front of us was what advice you'd give to people wanting to come into rail and work in tech. And I think...
Don't.
What?
Was that the advice? Don't.
No, you definitely should. So look, we spoke about lots of things and you asked me questions about problems. But look, it's improved a lot for the rail industry and myself. Our business wouldn't be there without the first of a kind funding help from Network Rail, DFT, and the partners involved in that, because the talks and some of the OEMs there. And I think the thing about rail is people really do care. It's one of those passion industries. So people coming into rail, I think you should go in with your eyes open. Like, you will be surrounded by people who actually really care. So, and I think that creates sometimes challenges, but also and more often than not opportunities, because there is that passion there. But I think people should go in. Rail is slower than sort of other software-based industries, and if you're in it just for the sort of the money, the quick sort of VC life cycle of 5 years, get in, get out, see if you can hype growth it and get out and retire, rail is definitely not that industry. And don't waste your time, but just because it just doesn't work. Like, it doesn't operate in those same ways. But I think certainly with my experience and others, because obviously we have other partners and also competitors in the space that have done well. Rail is there. It's a very interesting space. You're working very hard software problems with people who are very passionate about it. And most importantly, it makes a difference to society. And I think sometimes if you're going to, spend 5 years of your life, maybe longer, 10 years of your life, 15, 20 years of your life, doing something, that makes a difference to society, I think is really important. That's certainly why it motivates me and, other people that I speak to. So, give everything your best shot. If you really like rail, go in with it with passion and patience and positivity. And I think, you'll find a lovely place for yourself.
Brilliant. Great message to end on. Thanks, Haydon.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of What Moves Us. We hope we moved you. For more episodes, you'll definitely want to subscribe to our channel.
Till next time.